Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good day, wherever you are tuning in from. Welcome to the Upper Room. I am Eugene Holden, your host, and the Upper Room is a place where we talk about whatever we're talking about, but coming from a higher state of consciousness, talking about the things that we are here to do while we are here on this beautiful spiritual plane called Earth, and doing it from a place of clarity, doing it from a place of compassion, passion, purpose, and love. And today I have a special guest on today, and this is the amazing, the fantastic Dr. Tracy Brown. I'm going to switch this over again. There we go. Uh, good day, Tracy. How are you?
Oh, it's a great day. Anybody says I'm amazing and fantastic. I mean, okay, yeah, anytime. Great day.
Well, it is, and you are amazing, and you are fantastic, and I am so very happy that you're here on the Upper Room to talk about some of the things that you've been fantastically doing and amazingly doing out in the world. So I want to ask you to share with the people who may be tuning in now or later. What are you up to these days? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Ooh, of course you do.
Of course I do.
So I'll tell you 5 things about Tracy Brown, and I'm keeping in mind, especially people who don't know me. So I operate in the world as someone who does diversity and inclusion work with corporations and associations, and have a lot of fun translating my spiritual beliefs about why that's important into corporate speak. Number 2, related to that, I founded a brand under the business called Stained Glass Spirit, so that I could do diversity and inclusion work in spiritual communities that really talks about the spiritual mandate for being inclusive and for demonstrating love in the world. Number 3, a just kind of basic for everything I do in life. I am a licensed practitioner in Centers for Spiritual Living. So that means I'm a licensed spiritual coach, and do a lot of work with clients in that way, coaching them to integrate their personal, professional, emotional, mental, and financial priorities with their spiritual belief systems. And then, of course, there's always roller skating. I can never introduce well, I can, but I hardly ever introduce myself without saying, if I come to your city and there are adult roller skating sessions, please do the homework and let me know so I can bring my skates. And then the number 5 thing is I live in Dallas, Texas, and love it. 5 random things about Tracy Brown.
There we go. Now we know a little more about the Dr. Tracy Brown. So people have seen under the banner, and then also had just heard me say and introduce you as Dr. Tracy Brown. You want to talk anything about? You want to say anything about that title?
Sure. So within Centers for Spiritual Living, I have been a very active leader and volunteer, and I have served in a variety of roles, dozens of committees, and as chair of the governing board for CSL for 3 years, a few years back, and I'm the recipient of the Ernest Holmes Award and a recipient of an honorary doctorate degree from Centers for Spiritual Living. So that is the Dr. Tracy Brown RSCP.
Oh, see, I should have put that on there as well. Yeah, right. But here's the thing, right? Because you and I both know that it's more than what you are more than what the letters say.
Yes.
Right. So much more.
And the letters are cool if you know what they mean. Someone asked me just a few days ago, what does that RSCP mean? I'm like, and then I had to explain religious science, and then I had to
Right.
explain practitioner, and I didn't mind doing any
Right.
of that. But the reality is, there are a lot of people who have the initials behind the name, but they're not living the life. And so,
Mm,
if
come
I have
on.
to choose between the two, then I want my life to speak for, my behavior to speak for, my, the way I speak and the things I do to demonstrate that I am someone who practices religious science and who teaches it and practices as Ernest Holmes it compelled us to do.
Yeah. It's interesting that you would mention that you had the experience, of someone asking, what does that mean, the RSCP? And I did a talk a couple of Sundays ago, and afterwards, we fellowship on Zoom, and someone asked that same question, so what does that mean? And so having to explain, there were a couple of practitioners who were online, and they, explained what they thought. And then, of course, I gave my $2 worth. It's more than a quarter these days, or my 2 cents. It's a couple of bucks worth, right? Um, Tracy, you have been doing a lot of good work in the world for a while now. I mean, that diversity and inclusion and equity work. You've been doing that before it really became, I'm going to say, popular.
Or
So
unpopular. I live in Texas, remember?
True. Yeah. 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 Or unpopular. Well, you've been doing it before any of that, right? So,
Well,
but go ahead.
I sometimes joke, but I truly do believe it. So I do believe that my purpose, if we want to boil it down to that, is to build cross-cultural bridges and to teach others or support others in doing the same. And part of the reason I came to that realization, in my 30s probably, is because I've been trained to do this bridge building work since the age of 2, when
Hmm.
my family, which was a Black family, because you can't always assume that, but my family moved into what had previously been an all white neighborhood. And I was 2 years old. So, as far back as I can remember, I've had lesson after lesson after lesson that was built on, oh, you may be different, or other people may be different from you, and we can still have positive relationships. We can have breakdowns, we can go through barriers, but we can build bridges. And so my learning to build bridges, at 2 or at 4 years old, when the white family across the street, the parents wouldn't let me in the house because, right, their family would be upset to have someone with brown skin in their house. So that sometimes it was lessons learned the hard way, and sometimes it was lessons learned sitting in first grade with a mixed group of students, and we all, got along and loved each other, our white teachers and Black teachers. And so race was there for me. But then by the time I was in fifth grade, I was navigating other kinds of differences. And by the time I was in college, whether it was sexual orientation or religion or gender, or right, there were all these ways that people could use differences to create division or to create community. So all my life, I've been involved and engaged in that effort. But it wasn't until, I guess, my late 30s that I really realized, even working as an HR person in my early 30s, that that's part of what I was doing. I was bringing people together.
Hmm. Hmm. Did it feel as if you did not have a choice in doing that?
No, when I was a teenager, my motto, which is still my motto today, But who knew that I had enough wisdom at 15 or 16 to choose a motto that would serve me my entire life. But the motto that came to me that I consciously, intentionally chose was, you always have a choice. You always have a choice. And and so even in getting clear, when I had clarity about who I have come here to be, I still felt like I have a choice to step into that. I have a choice to resist it. I have a choice to deny it and do something else because, if I have some reasons, but I chose to integrate it into everything that I do.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
victims, no victims, no victims, no victims, no villains.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love, you probably heard me talk about this, right? I love the gift of choice, right? And what came to me, and this has to very much to do with what you're doing, right? Is that when we always hear, we always have a choice. We always have a choice. And what came to me, Tracy, is, well, there's one thing that we don't have a choice in, and that is in creating. We don't have a choice in that. We have to create. Now, most people create from an unconsciousness, right? They don't know that they have that power of choice to choose, right? How do I want to create, right? So at an early age, you say 15, but I'm looking at 2, 5, 7, that whole process. But at 15, to make the conscious choice, to build a bridge, because you have no other choice but to do it, and to do it this way. Yeah, you could have chosen to do or not do it, right, or resist it, but that doesn't feel good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think when I was a teenager, I wasn't quite that deep. And, the thing of you always have a choice, the motto as a teenager was more like,
Sheesh.
it was you have a choice to do the right thing versus like the existential, who am I here to be? Like you have a choice to, be forgiving, or you have a choice
Mm.
to follow in the footsteps of some people who are said to be leaders, but you are looking at them and they're very hypocritical. They say one thing and they do something else. Well, I have a choice to live in alignment with my spiritual beliefs. um and so it wasn't kind of the what is your life's purpose choice, but it was the reminder. And the other thing, which I'm sure you don't know about me, is that I was really sick growing up. And so by the time I was 15 or 16, I had actually died twice, like dead, like, not breathing physically. And so I think I do remember back being 15 or 16, and because I didn't think I would live to be 40. I thought I would be blind by 30 and I would not live to see 40. And
Wow.
so part of my you always have a choice was grounded in this experience of life is not promised, which we all know intellectually, but having had two experiences where I had to be resuscitated or brought back.
You were how old?
Well, one happened when I was maybe 7 or 8, 7-ish, and one happened when I was 12 or 13.
Wow.
And so that idea that you, Tracy, you're not gonna be able to see by the time you're 30 if you live that long. You won't live to be 40. And so you need to choose
Wow.
how you want to be, not so much who you want to be, but how you want to experience the world. And if I'd been raised in New Thought and metaphysics, then it might have meant even more. But at 15 or 16, that motto was selected from a different place. I really didn't make the connection and see the thread that had gone through the tapestry of my life that was related to inclusion. I really didn't see that until I was in my mid to late 30s.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Something you said very powerfully, right? Choose how you want to be, not who you want to be, but how you want to be. And if I am not mistaken, you're not speaking about how you want to be seen, but how you want to be active, or for lack of a better word.
Yeah. And I,
Yeah.
I was raised in a religious home and spent a lot of time in the church. And I really took to heart when Jesus said, "When you see me, you see the Father." And I don't think I could have articulated it this clearly back then, but what was going on in within me was my soul connecting to the how I want to be. Is I want to be an example of this higher consciousness living. I want to be an example of what it means to be in the upper room, since we're on the upper room. I hold myself
Mm.
to a higher standard, that my standards are not established by the people around me or even what society accepts, because I learned that lesson at 8 years old, that I was my class was bused from a school that was predominantly Black to a school that had been all white. And as an 8-year-old, every day I would get off the bus and there would be dozens of white adults calling us names, telling us to get out of their neighborhood, go back to the ghetto, which, by the way, the neighborhood I lived in, and I grew up in a 3-story house with a full bedroom and tree-lined streets where the trees arch into a canopy. And right, and like, yeah, whatever. Then homes in the neighborhood, in the blocks where I live, were double the size of the homes in the neighborhood where the school.
School was.
But at 7 and 8 years old, right? You're not doing all of that. The lesson was every day I would get off the bus. All of us, we'd line up and get off the bus. And the bus driver, as we passed him, he just would be like, "You keep your head up. You're going to have a good
Wow.
day.
Wow.
Don't let them affect you." I mean, like, he just had, you know, as we were passing by him, he was giving us affirmations
Right.
that we are who we are and we belong wherever we are, and ignore them because, I guess as Jesus would say, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do."
Right.
So I learned that lesson of I'm the one that is the keeper of the standards by which I live.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. Being that example, and coming from the New Testament, right? And one of the things that we learn, or that we read or hear about, is being that example is also being one who serves,
Yes.
right? And what I'm reminded of, the honorary doctorate that you got is basically a result of you serving in all of those different capacities and serving from a higher consciousness.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Is it the truth?
I mean, I didn't confer the doctorate. Yes, I do
Right,
know enough about how those decisions are made. That service is a huge part of it. The consciousness by which
right,
you live. Are you representing the
right,
highest ideals of science of mind and spiritual living in the world? And I have joked with some people that yes, I mean, there are a lot of people who can serve, and during that service, like what outcomes, um, what benefits, what results came from that service? Because you and I both know can make a long list of people who have raised their hand and who have served in roles, but they didn't do anything while they were in those roles,
right,
or they created more negative impact while they were in those roles than positive impact.
right,
So I'm always careful about buying into or supporting the idea that simply because someone has served in certain roles or titles that they should be honored in certain ways with
right.
recognition, etc. um, and I have one of my sisters has an academic doctorate degree, and it took her 5 years of taking the classes, writing the papers, stretching herself, and in addition to, the many years of living and learning that she had before doing the doctorate program. And I have had conversations with her about, yeah, my 7 years in leadership, formal leadership, I was writing the papers, taking the class, because all the situations that had to be navigated, all of the problems that had to be solved, all of the new things that had to be learned and created. It's like, oh, yeah, I did the same amount of work as someone who has an academic
Right.
degree. Um, and it's not just as some people think, oh, you did some service and so they gave you this title. No, girl,
No,
earned
you earned this. Yeah.
blood, sweat, tears, a lot of tears.
Right. Yeah. 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 So along that same line, as the chairperson of the governing board of Centers for Spiritual Living, kind of two questions, but one. Um, how did that grow you?
It grew me in so many ways. So,
First of all,
but
before you answer that, I want to say that you did a stellar job.
history will tell that story.
Yeah, it will.
So it grew me in a couple of ways. One, by the time I was in that role in the organization, and for people who don't know Centers for Spiritual Living, it's an organization that has about 400 ministries all over the globe and has been around since 1927. And so one of the ways it grew me was I had already been doing diversity and inclusion strategy work and leadership training for a long time before I was in that role. And so it grew me to actually walk my talk, like to apply all the things that I do in with other organizations to be in a leadership role where I could apply pieces of it within that organization and watch it or nurture it, water it, you know, knead it so that I was not just telling people what they could or should do, but making decisions as a leader about how much of it I could integrate, what was the organization ready for. So it grew my patience, and it grew my, interestingly enough, already spiritually grounded, but it grew me in not my faith, but in my demonstration of faith.
Mm-hmm. And you're knowing. Yeah.
And in demonstrating it in my words and actions. So remembering to, well, I don't know if it's remembering because I kind of do it intuitively, which helped me get through some of the hardest times. But really, you know, I would tell people all the time as a practitioner, integrate your spirituality or your beliefs into your meetings and into your plans and into your problem solving. And so it grew me to be able to practice that, to include prayer, or to, you know, we're making business decisions, but really making sure that we as a group, you know, I did some series where we needed to collectively be in prayer for each other. And
Mm.
so having those 13 people each take a week and provide a midweek treatment or a midweek spiritual uplift for that group so that we were ministering to each other so that we could make good decisions for the organization. I mean, it wasn't just something I thought of that people should be doing. That was coming from my growth of how do we live these principles and lead at the same time.
Right. Running a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Because the main thing in not just Science of Mind and Spirit, but and all of the spiritual traditions talk about oneness and no separation, right? So which what I'm hearing is bringing that spiritual practice in our spiritual way of being into everything that you do, everything that we do, everything that you do, which includes roller skating, right? Or whatever else that you do within life. Right? See, there she is skating.
Right. That's like you mentioned roller skating. I'm stepped over
There,
here into another world.
right.
Yeah.
Hearing the music and just floating.
And
Yeah.
that's, you know, interesting you would say it that way because isn't that how we want to live our lives,
Yes.
right? Hear the music of love
Right.
and flow with it
Yeah.
in all that we do.
Yeah. To be in, and I got this phrase from Reverend Michael Beckwith, to be in that flow motion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 Okay, Rev. So I gave you credit. I'm going to take it from now on. But yeah, to hear, I got to give him credit two more times. But to hear the music of the universe, and the universal music is love. I tell being a percussionist, being a musician, I always talk about it's all about the music. It's all about the music. And they go, Eugene, what are you talking about? Well, the universe, the one stanza, right? And when people are in one accord, then things work harmoniously. And then when things are in discord, well, then we need to tune up whatever it is we need to tune up so that we can be back in harmony to be in the flow of the universal music of love and of peace and of grace. Because this is the one thing that I know everybody around the world wants the same things.
And how could we not when we've all been created by the one source that is that?
Right.
So we want that because we are that when we go beyond the surface.
Yeah. When we go beyond the surface, when we see beyond the behavior. Yeah. 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 Whew. See, we could be talking, but man, time goes by, right? Tracy, what is it that you would want our listeners or viewers to know?
Hmm. Maybe it's too easy, um, but it's what came to mind the moment you were asking the question. Ernest Holmes said, and is known for saying and writing, there's only one power in the universe. It's available to all, and you can use it. And so for me, what I want to live my life by and want to encourage others to live their life by is to step into that one power, that one love. And that doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means that it is the love that allows you to navigate through the human condition so that you can experience and help others experience heaven on earth.
Yeah. 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 And if people wanted to get in touch with you,
Hmm. Yeah, go to reclaimjoy.com because that's the place where
oops.
uh, reclaim. What was that? Reclaimjoy.com is kind of home base for the all the spiritual lessons and reminders, and there are links there to other things that I do. So reclaimjoy.com is probably the place, unless they're really specifically focused on corporate work, and then that would be tracybrown.com. But reclaimjoy.com is home base.
All righty. Man, thank you so very much, Tracy Brown. It is so good to be with you today. And hopefully, in the future, because I know you are busy. Oh, before we go, I know that you're busy doing a lot of things. So I want to make sure that I can catch you and you can come back on
I'd
and
love
share
to.
your wisdom and your insight and your joy on the upper room. But before I let you go, you have a trip coming up in 2024.
Yeah. Um,
Do you want to talk
2020,
about that or not?
well, I'll mention it. 2024, November 12th, 2 weeks in Egypt. Going to a variety of cities in Egypt. A 6-day river cruise on the Nile River is wrapped into those 14 days. If there are openings available, you can find them at spirit.tours. So I know you're used to something.com, but .tours is a domain as well. So spirit.tours, or just search for Spirit Tours on your favorite internet browser and then look for Egypt. I'm taking 18 people, and
Whew.
um, yeah, if there are any cabins or seats left, that's how you would find out. Or go to reclaimjoy.com, track me down on the contact page and ask me, and I'll give you more info.
All righty. I didn't have time to put the other one down, so I'm gonna put this one back up. Um, yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Whew. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Again, Tracy, thank you so very much. What am I looking for? There it is, right there, because I like this one. Um, and Thank you so very much for being on. And everybody, remember that the Upper Room airs live Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. Then you can also catch it on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. The recordings are there. All righty. Have a fantastic day, a fantastic week, and all of this you do enjoy. on purpose. Peace and blessings, everyone.